Hello everybody, in this video I want to talk about the importance of making a mess of things. So if you've been to the dojo recently and everything went badly, or there's a certain technique you can't get right, or a certain sparring partner you can never land a shot on, whatever it is, that making a mess of things is an important part of the process. It's not something going wrong, it's what's supposed to happen in the dojo. So I want to share a few thoughts and quotes with you around it as well. So one of them is a quote one of my old instructors used to use all the time, where he'd say, it's better to die 1,000 times in the dojo than once in reality. The idea being, it's okay to make mistakes in here. You're allowed to make mistakes. This is a safe environment where you can make mistakes, find out why the mistakes, find out what happens when you make those mistakes, how to correct those mistakes, and most importantly of all, to make sure you don't make those mistakes in the future. Learning isn't just about learning what works, it's also learning about what doesn't work. So you don't try those things in the ever-changing massive variables of actual conflict. You understand what to do and you understand what not to do. So it's okay to make mistakes in the dojo. It's okay to die in the dojo, because that's the environment. You're supposed to do that. And the whole point is that through making those mistakes, you're less likely to make them when it really counts. It's part of the learning process. Another quote which I always really liked was one of my grandfathers. So my grandfather was a carpenter of some local renown. He was a very skilled carpenter. And my grandfather would often joke that there was a reason that Jesus was also a carpenter. Because God realized that carpentry was the perfect metaphor for life. And one of the things that my grandfather would say is, he says, when making anything, he says, the first thing you need to make is the mess. So he would refer to, sawdust bin everywhere, tools bin all over the place, and the job not quite going as you wanted it to in the first instance, right? The mess was an important part of it. And that stuck with me, that. So whenever I mess things up, in life generally or in the dojo, I think, okay, good, tick, that's job one done. I've made the mess, now I can get on to stage two. Again, it's part of the creative process. It's part of the learning process. Another thing as well, from a combative point of view, it is important to do techniques wrong as well as right. Because, conflicts like that, you never have that happen where nothing goes wrong, where everything works, where every technique you do is successful. It's not the way it works. As you know, on your best day, there's still a very high rate of failure of techniques, So we need to practice techniques failing and then being able to recover from that failure in a way that allows us to maintain the advantage and the initiative. So I sometimes think in our own practice, when things aren't going right, we kind of get a little bit too despondent, but we have to acknowledge that's part of the learning process, whatever it is. Masashi said this, because it may seem difficult at first, but everything seems difficult at first. It's all part of the learning process. So if you're making a mess of things, great, great. Don't do it forever, don't get stuck on the mess, but it's part of the process. You're not doing anything wrong, you're just engaged in the process. You're not at fault, it's not that there's something inherently wrong with you that stops you from getting it right. It's just part of the process. So accept that, you're allowed to make mistakes in the dojo. That's why we go there, right? It's a safe environment. It's better to die 1,000 times in the dojo than once in reality, right? That making a mess of things is part of the learning process, an important and inherent part of the learning process. And not only so we can learn not to make those mistakes, but also we can learn to correct those mistakes on the go. Which is something that combat's going to require. So yeah, don't worry too much if you're making a mess of things. It can lead to good things. It's part of the process.